Okay. Unfortunately, Heather was not able to be here with us tonight, but we are talking this week about staff care. So Heather Caraway is the staff care coordinator for Merge. She's on our leadership team. And what that means she is in charge of is selecting, hosting, recruiting, mentoring, retaining, and evaluating all people who work with or volunteer with Merge. So essentially anything that has to do with staff. So when we have new staff, she's often the person that goes out first and kind of goes through what it means to be a coach or a staff member with Merge, and then brings that back to the leadership team. So going into her duties and responsibilities a little bit more. So the first one would be that she helps refine the selection and recruitment of staff. So she helps create the like job description for a coach, for example, that kind of says what competencies, what skills and personalities and giftings are we looking for in Merge staff. She also works together with some other people on the leadership team to make sure that they have standardized and up-to-date database for all of our coaches, and that includes worksheets, emails, manuals, all the things that people need. And that works a little bit in conjunction with communications and then also with training with me, with planning sheets and stuff like that. Heather assists with the training process. Again, she's kind of that first person that would go out and meet new staff generally, um, and then helps with the training process along the way. Her job is also to develop the different jobs and kind of the roles. And this is some of the stuff is stuff that we work on together as a leadership team, but it's kind of Heather's main area in the staff care main area. So the reason for each position, the job profile, and the description of the functions. She works to define a staff structure. So what does it look like? Who are the coaches? Who are all the different people as well? And then she defines pastoral mentoring and caring processes. So kind of what things are offered to our staff as far as spiritual direction, counselor, spiritual care, human resources, serve, working with Serve Globally, all of those things. She also creates assessment and feedback tools. So Heather's the one that kind of takes the feedback that we get from teams and things like that and kind of puts that into practice to do some evaluation with staff. Works with the leadership team to define salaries, benefits, incentives, compensation for merge staff. Works on developing an occupational risk plan. So some of those like human resources type things, including the risk prevention manual as well. Some of those are more like that human resources side of staff care, as well as the development of labor policies. Kind of what are those policies around the work that we're doing. And the last thing on here is to create parameters to professionalize more as an organization. So what does that look like for us as coaches or as merge staff? How do we maintain a professional look and also being uniform in that? So those are kind of the main responsibilities and duties of the staff care coordinator. Then there's kind of various merge staff descriptions. So the non-coach positions that we have as merge, and we're kind of working on the names to see if we'll change these names at all. But the first one is volunteer staff. So the volunteer staff would be a contact from a ministry or a church that shares information. They can help on a trip as staff or just help doing some local logistics. And they would be paid per trip as a staff member or for the task that they're doing. And then there's support staff. So that's emerge staff who are not full or part-time coaches, but they are available in different seasons to help with groups. And they are also paid as staff per group. So those are kind of our two positions that are not coaches or maybe don't have enough teams to be coaches would be in those two categories. The next positions are our coach positions. So we have part-time coaches, which is coaches that have between 1 to 2 consistent trips each year, and they would have access to all the financial benefits. So that means which we'll go over these again, because I know we talked about them briefly last week, but the pot bonus, which happens twice a year, the leadership team bonus, being paid per team, and then professional expense. So all of our both part-time and full-time coaches would have access to both to all of those financial benefits for coaches. Full-time coaches would be coaches that have three or more consistent trips, and they have access to all the same financial benefits, but at a greater amount than the part-time coaches. This is because we just want to make sure that we are just recognizing the work that our coaches are doing, especially those that have a lot of trips. Just recognizing the fact that it's a lot of work to do all those trips. And then the final thing that's on here is a coach on sabbatical. So this is something that we started a couple years ago, is sabbatical, where a coach can say, for whatever reason, maybe it's health reasons, mental health reasons, a family situation that's going on, they can assign an agreement with the staff care coordinator from the leadership team to be on sabbatical for a year. That means throughout that year, the coach is not required to attend any of the mandatory trainings, lead any teams, anything like that. They also would then not receive their financial benefits for that year, but it's kind of just like taking a year off. So this is something that we really think can be helpful, especially like if we have any coaches that are going through crisis that say, I just can't right now. I don't want to step back fully from merge, but I just need a year to kind of reevaluate or to get healthy or whatever it may be. That allows our coaches to do that without having any of the pressure, um, feeling like they need to be attending certain things or leading teams. So generally, when a coach is on sabbatical, if they're healthy, they can still do what they can. So they'll still generally be like invited to trainings, and they'll be in the merge staff WhatsApp group and stuff. So they can still attend things as um, they are up to it. Any questions on any of that? Okay, then we'll keep going. So this is just kind of a general thing talking about all of our merge coach benefits. So when someone becomes a merge coach, you have access to different levels and different parts of staff care. So part of that is access to a dedicated staff care team. One moment. And that staff care team, that includes scheduled check-ins with the staff care coordinator. And also just if you have any needs or anything that comes up, you can always reach out to that person. The next thing would be staff crisis care. So that means if you're in crisis, there's access to that, as well as mental health care and spiritual direction. So those are kind of just some general ways that Merge is caring for staff. The next are the financial benefits that we talked about briefly last week, or we talked about more in depth last week. So for coaches, they're paid per trip that they have. They also will have a professional expense, which may include opportunities to start a small business in certain amounts. They'll have the pot bonus twice a year and the leadership team bonus as well. And again, some of those are based depending on how many teams we have. Some of those are based on how well we fundraise. And then for that leadership team bonus, it's based on your participation in the different non-mandatory things that Merge offers. The next thing would be kind of some emergency benefits. So medical care for staff during trips, trip emergency coverage, and the potential to request financial help from the leadership team for an emergency or crisis for yourself or an immediate family member. That's like a certain amount of the budget, so it's not guaranteed that just because you request it, it's available, but that is something that can sometimes happen. Training opportunities for our staff. There's merge trainings that we offer throughout the year. First aid and CPR classes, which I know we talked about when we talked about safety. English classes, if you were to need English classes, or other outside webinars or classes. Sometimes when those come up, I'll send things out and say, hey, we have this opportunity to participate in this seminary class at the North Park Seminary in Chicago. It's an online class. Who would be interested? And sometimes those things kind of come up as well. And then finally, travel benefits, reimbursement of all of your travel expenses, which might be mileage, it might be flights or bus tickets or gas and maintenance for your car, for any trips that you do, and for any like pre-trip planning. So if I'm taking a team to a place that's an hour away from my house and I have to travel there a couple times before the team comes, all of those travel expenses can be reimbursed. Um, Merge retreats are great travel benefits. We try to do that at least every few years to get together. We think it's just so important for our staff to be together. So as much as we can, we try to do merge retreats. Merge can also help to acquire any necessary visas or documents that you need to go help out in another country. And then you can travel to participate in other events or other trips. And that's obviously on as needed basis. And then required skills for our merge coaches, organization, flexibility, having strong communication skills, English proficiency or a willingness and ability to learn English, planning skills, healthy leadership skills, and a willingness to serve. Any questions on any of the merge coach benefits? All right, then we'll just keep continuing on. All right, this is kind of the longest section here. Is kind of the roles and responsibilities of a merge coach. So we're going to kind of split it up here a little bit of before a trip, during a trip, after a trip, and then kind of other roles and responsibilities. Again, some of this we talked about when we talked about the planning sheet, but it's good to remember that being a merge coach doesn't just involve 1 week a year when the team is there. A lot of these tasks start 6 months ahead of time and they go 6 months after the team leaves. So there is really a long time commitment that you are responsible for. So before the trip, your responsibilities as a merge coach with the team is to brainstorm with the team, sometimes using a skills assessment of what type of ministries the team can do and encouraging them and how to encourage and enhance a local ministry partner in the community outreach. So it's really about helping bridge that gap between what's already happening in the community or what are some of the needs of the community and how does the team's skills fit into that. Communicating with the team leader regarding the ground logistics, helping to train the team. Again, there will be a trainer here in the US, but you'll join for usually about an hour, hour and a half of that training to talk about the culture part. And it's your responsibility as a coach to make sure that they're trained. That's all on the planning sheet. So you should be reaching out to me saying, hey, this is the team I have. This is a date they want to train, or here's a few different dates they want to train. Do any of those work? Sending photos and videos to the team leader, responding to all forms of communication with the team leader and the leadership team within 48 hours, creating that trip schedule, organizing special cultural events for the teams, finding acceptable staff and volunteers for the trip, finding fun afternoon options for a team rest day or a tourist day, pre-ordering any work project materials and tools that they may need before the team gets there, creating a shopping list and a meal plan for the team, especially if you have someone that's going to do your food staff. You want to make sure that you do that with them so they know. And then creating a budget with the leadership team or with Dale based on the schedule, the team size, what ministry they're doing, staff needs, food, housing, transportation, all of those things are things that you would work with Dale on to develop that budget. As far as the host, your responsibilities with the host is to promote and find potential ministry partners and sites within your area of service. So that's finding who is going to be that global partner that the team is going to work with. Scheduling a host training session with them prior to the team's arrival, brainstorming with the pastor or the leaders, what ministry ideas would be encouraging and enhancing for the church and the community, creating a trip schedule, working with them to organize food for the teams, volunteers, food prep, safety, shopping list, budget, and then helping to create the relationship for building events for the hosts and teams. So those are kind of all the roles and responsibilities of a merge coach before a trip happens. During and after a trip, so you would be responsible for meeting and welcoming the team at the airport or at the host site, overseeing and leading the opening material when they get there, keeping track of money spent during the trip. Remember, Daniela talked a lot about and then how to report that at the end. Overseeing and leading devotions and daily kind of processing or debrief time. This is something that we offer to teams. So we kind of say, Would you like Merge to do the daily devotions and debrief, or would your team like to lead those on your own? Or would they like a mixture? And so sometimes teams will say, oh yeah, we would love for Merge to take care of that. And sometimes teams will say, oh no, we can do that, or a mixture of the two. So it may not be doing it every day, but at least offering that. Checking in with your staff and your hosts daily is kind of a responsibility of the coach, just to make sure how they're checking in to see how things are going. Going over the schedule each day with the team leaders and your staff, making sure they know what's happening, making sure each work and ministry site is safe and has all the necessary tools and staff that they would need, making sure that each location has clean water to drink. We always provide water in big jugs and then allow people to fill their water bottles. We always say that like Merge staff are the only people that should be refilling the big jugs of water, just because we want to make sure that it's all done in a sanitary way. Food prep and cooking is handled in a safe manner. That's your job as the Merge coach, to make sure that whoever's making the food knows how to handle it. For instance, if they need to use drinking water instead of their tap water, those are things that they need to know to do. Sometimes when we're preparing food for teams, we would do that in a different way than maybe how the locals would for themselves. Having a first aid kit and access to local doctor and hospital. And again, on that safety and contingency plan, we need to know where the doctor is, where the hospital is, what's our route to get there, all of those things. Being present and accessible during the entire course of the trip, and making sure that all staff roles, volunteers, and contract workers are fulfilling their duty, fill in where needed. So again, you're kind of that leadership piece of you're kind of in charge of your staff. And at the end of tonight, we'll talk a little bit about how we go about training them as well. And then overseeing and leading the closing or the goodbye meeting when the team is about to leave. And again, that opening meeting and that closing meeting, there's like a document that you would kind of go through for those meetings. So it's not something that you need to come up with on your own. We already have kind of a plan and an outline of what you would talk about in those meetings. After the trip, your responsibilities is to continue to meet with the local partner to talk about the trip, talk about what went well, what can be done better, make sure your local staff is paid, make sure you get any money logs and receipts from your staff. Review that with them before they leave, if they're going somewhere else or back home. Submit all of the financial things to the leadership team, so to Daniela, within 30 days of the trip. Follow up with the team leader via email, Zoom, phone call about the trip. Send any follow-up materials to the leader, and then make sure you send stories, photos to Mario and Evie, and the ministry numbers to Daniela. So those are kind of the roles and responsibilities of the Merge coach during and after a trip. Hopefully all of this kind of sounds like a review from when we went over the planning sheet, because most of these things are on the planning sheet as well. Any questions? All right, we'll keep going then. So then here's kind of some additional responsibilities. So these are the ones that maybe aren't happening while you're on a trip or specifically with a trip. So the first one would be to develop, care for, and maintain relationships with your local partners, pastors, leaders, ministries, and staff in your area of service. So this may include visits or phone calls, emails, and texts. We want to make sure that you're in contact with them, that if something's going on, that you know about what's going on. And again, with the way that you're kind of the bridge, as the coach, you're kind of the bridge between the team and the local ministry. That's an important piece of that as well. Keeping in communication with our Merge leadership team. If we reach out for anything, you reaching out as you need to as well. Report information regarding any country issues or concerns in your specific locations or with local hosts. So those are things that you would communicate to the leadership team. If there's any safety concerns that you're seeing come up in your country, or there's concerns with a ministry site and concerns about how things are being handled, or how a trip or something serious that happened on a trip, or even not on a trip. Those things are things that you would report to the leadership team as well. Helping to create and maintain the training manuals for your country. So every country has a country manual. So you'd be responsible for creating that, helping to create that, and then maintaining that. Working with the leadership team, mostly Daniela and Dale, to develop fees for your area. So they'll reach out and kind of say, okay, what do we think budget wise for certain things? And then reporting all expenses for travel, visits, professional expense, visas, etc., to Daniela and Dale as well. Any expenses if you go help out on a trip in another country, make sure that you're keeping receipts and that you're reporting all of those expenses. Recruiting and training staff and volunteers for future trips. Always keep in mind that you're always on the lookout for who would be good staff in my area that would be somebody that would understand the merge vision and values and would be a good asset to our merge team. Helping to update the website for your area service, responding to all emails and communications from the leadership team and or Dale, and then being present at all required merge coach trainings and meetings. So sometimes we have required trainings, like last year we had a required training on the planning sheet where we went through step by step, just like I did with you guys a few weeks ago, everything on the planning sheet. That was a required training. But sometimes we have optional trainings like, hey, we're going to do this training, or hey, I heard about this training that another organization is doing. If you want to do it, great. So the roles and responsibilities of a coach is specifically for the required trainings that you're expected to be there. And then the optional responsibilities, if your schedule allows, is attending in-person merge staff meetings and retreats. Obviously, that's a really fun responsibility that you have. Joining the leadership team. The way that the leadership team works is each person on the leadership team, as we're kind of getting the structure put in place, serves for 3 years with the option of renewing one time for another 3-year term. So this coming about 1 year from now, we'll actually have 3 of our people rotating off because one kind of had to hold on an extra year. But we're always looking for who's kind of going to be that next person on the leadership team. So be thinking about that. Be thinking about if you're like, oh, I would really like to be involved in merge in a more intense or more in-depth way. That can be something to be thinking about. Other responsibilities that may be possible are assisting other coaches in other areas throughout the year, promoting merge at various events. It could be conferences, it could be things here in the United States, it could be in other areas as well. And then attending classes to further encourage and improve your merge role in ministry. So again, there's sometimes seminary classes or things like that that we open up to the merge coaches. Any questions on this page at all? All right. Okay, went from one that was really fun to one that's not quite as fun. So termination. So each merge coach will kind of meet with Heather specifically and kind of go through the roles and responsibilities. She may have already shared some of that with you guys. We do talk about it again at training. And then this is kind of termination. These are the different examples and things that are grounds for a coach to be asked to leave merge or to be terminated from being a coach. Each event will be reviewed and discussed by the leadership team. Termination may be decided immediately depending on the severity and intentionality of each offense. So cause for immediate termination is sexual or physical harassment of any kind, the use of illegal drugs or substances, an inappropriate relationship or contact with a minor, and stealing or unethical handling of merge money. So those are kind of the cause that we would say that's an immediate termination from being a merge coach. The other ones that are cause for consideration of termination, so they aren't necessarily like a one and done kind of thing, but that would be something that would be continued to be looked at, would be an inability to fulfill job responsibilities. So that would be like a lack of timely responses to emails or communications, failure to participate in the required meetings, failure to submit end of trip documents, logs, accounting, and photos in a timely manner. Specifically talking about that one, I want to be clear that it's not like you make a mistake one time and you forgot to send your financial log to Daniela, you're not going to be terminated. But I think it's more of the continual lack of doing the job and the responsibilities that are being asked of you can then be cause for termination. Unethical behavior prior to or during trips, that could be things on social media, photos, posts, anything like that. Failure to resolve past pending issues or areas of improvement. So that's where, as Heather talks through evaluation with our coaches, if you guys kind of have like a plan of like, hey, here's the area of things, something that you're really working on, and that kind of continues to be a struggle or an area that needs improvement, and you're not really working toward it, that could be grounds for termination. Putting staff or team in unsafe or dangerous situations. And I would say this is like knowingly putting staff in or negligently putting staff or team in unsafe or dangerous situations. Obviously, something dangerous could happen at any moment. But if you're either knowing that it's a dangerous situation and choosing to do it anyway, or just not paying enough attention, those are things that could be cause for termination. Again, the inability to communicate well with leaders, teams, staff, churches, or hosts and people running their own trips outside of merge. So kind of saying, hey, I'm going to steal these teams and do my own trip and not go through a merge can also be grounds for termination. Any other questions about this? All right. Though that's not, they're not limited to that list, but that's kind of the list that we've come up with. All right, and we're actually going to finish a little bit early tonight as well. And then Heather may reach out to some of you if there's anything she wants to add. Again, she wasn't able to join us tonight, so I'm kind of sharing, but she may want to share as well. So this last part is how to choose and train local staff. Obviously, you are the coach in your area, but we would really encourage you to have a group of local staff that you use for your trips. So some of our ideal characteristics, what are we looking for in a person who's going to be on our merge staff? So availability during the trip, obviously that's important. Someone that's a good communicator, flexible, willingness to help where needed, following merges rules and guidelines, someone who values teamwork, someone who understands and affirms the merge vision and values, someone who's trustworthy, ethical, and culturally aware. So you can kind of be thinking about people you may know that may be good people to be on a merged trip. Sometimes like that availability during the trip is like, well, duh, but that can sometimes be the most difficult. If there's people that are working full time and can't ask for a week of vacation off, that's probably not a good person to be on your merge staff. Um, and we do have a current local staff training. It's like a manual, but it's also something that I'm going to be probably revising and updating and kind of just checking to see if there's anything we want to change or any like activities we want to do to make it a little more engaging and stuff. But in general, what that talks about, which would probably continue to be the same general topics, is it talks about what are the merge vision statement and values, making sure our local staff know that, just like we made sure that the team knows that when we do their training. We make sure the host knows that when we do their training. We need to make sure that our local staff know that as well. Expectations that we have of the staff, financial issues. So that means, are they going to be handling the money? They need to know to keep the receipts, things like that. Pay, they need to know how much they're getting paid, all of that. Housing and food, what does that look like? If they're helping, sometimes we have somebody who's in charge of food. They're in charge of putting out the merge meals. They need to know what to buy, how to make a shopping list, how to stay within a budget. All of those things go in housing and food. Clothing, making sure that just like we train our teams on what to wear, we need to make sure our local staff are following the same guidelines as well. Arrival, departure, and travel info that our local staff would need to know. Information about email, social media, technology. Again, one of the most important things is that nobody on the merge staff should be communicating with a minor by email, social media, anything like that. And then also just not being on their phones all the time and not having their phones out and taking pictures all the time when we've told our teams to kind of wait until they've formed relationships, things like that. Flexibility and the importance of being flexible. relationship with God, and just in sometimes trips can get so hectic and it can be like so logistical, but it's really reminding our staff that we need to be focusing on our own relationship with God as well. Relationship with our group and the team and the local and the global partner, um, and just how to maintain that relationship, how to talk to the group and the merge staff, conflict and conflict management, organization, punctuality, depending on where you live and work with merge. Punctuality may be like a cultural thing that may be something to be talked about with your local staff. Pay, gifts, tips, kind of what they need to know about, like how much are you going to be paid? When will you be paid? Can you accept gifts or tips from the team? Things like that. And then theological issues or disagreements that may come up. We want to kind of train our staff on like how to handle that if that comes up, if you disagree with something that's being said. And I know that Ali mentioned this in her session, but that we don't debate theological issues with teams. That's not the role of a merge staff. And then with your local staff, you would then be responsible for evaluating them, making sure that your local staff are following the expectations, make sure you did the training, you know that they know the expectations, you make sure that they follow the expectations, and then continue training. Just because the merge staff, like your local staff has been trained one time, doesn't mean then they're never trained again. Continue to train them over time as they continue to help. If you have a mixture of experienced local staff and new local staff, it can be great to have the more experienced people help in the training to train the newer staff. Even just for that's one of the things that they say that you retain information so much better when you teach it than when you just hear it. So that would be something to tap into and kind of say, hey, we're going to go through this training. Would you be able to help me with this section and this section? I think that those are really good strengths of yours. And that can be a good way to encourage that staff person that you have. And also just to get them engaged in the training, even though they've already heard it before. And then support from the leadership team. We're always here to support you, whether that be that you need help in training your staff or there's difficult conversations or questions you may have that you just don't know how to address in certain situations. We are always here to help you with that. So that would be kind of just what we have about local staff. Does anybody have questions about local staff? All right. Then the last thing is just thank you. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
Sorry.
Patrick.
Concerning local staff. So, if I'm the match coach, am I the one totally involved in recruitment of this staff? And how does other match seniors come in, like when it comes to training of the local staff?
Yeah, so generally, when you do your first couple trips, you'll actually have someone from the leadership team or an experienced merge coach would come and help you. But eventually, our goal is that all of our merge um, coaches have local staff. So yeah, you would be responsible for finding that person, mainly because you know your area the best, you know who's around, you know people well enough. And then obviously, if you can't find people or you're having a really hard time, that's always something that we can talk about. And sometimes we may send someone else, like Patrick, maybe we would send Sifa to go help you on a trip because Sifa's nearby if you were having a hard time finding local staff. But otherwise, yeah, you as a merge coach would be responsible for training your local staff. And again, we have a manual that kind of like lists it all out of here's all the things to go over with the local staff. And we could do that with you the first few times if you wanted just to say like, hey, could we do this together to start? And then once you get more and more used to it, you would just be um, expected or able to do that on your own. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
I have another one.
Yep.
Um, is it like a requirement for all of the sites to get to have a certain amount of local staff?
No, so there's not a requirement just because it will depend on trips, how many local staff you'll need. So sometimes you may have trips where there's not enough people to even have other local staff. And other times you'll have a trip where you'll need a bunch of local staff. So there's not like a requirement of how many you need to have, but hopefully you'll kind of get to know the groups that come to your area. You'll get to know your area to know, hey, I have this one group where there's 60 people that come, and I'm going to need a lot of staff for that trip. But then my other trips are more like 8 people, and I won't need as much staff for those trips. So there's not like a set number. We would encourage you to just kind of have like kind of a list of like, here's the people that I could go to, if that's possible in your area. Again, some people tend to find people very easily that are great merge staff, and other areas, sometimes it's much more difficult, either because it's hard to find people with the time availability to help out with trips, or depending on whether they need to know English, sometimes that can be a difficulty, things like that. So it kind of just depends on every country. But I think as you start working with teams, as you start getting teams to your area, if you have any questions specifically about how do I find new staff, let us know. That's something we'd always love to kind of like work on like a case by case basis with you of how to find those people, um, how to maintain your relationships with those people as well. Great questions. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Then our last thing, yeah, is just to say thank you. You've spent a lot of time over the last 6 weeks just listening and learning, and I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that there's been a lot of information to make you feel um, like you understand what your job and your role as a merge coach will be. Again, here's the contact information for all the leadership team. So I don't know if you want to like take a picture of this with your phone or a screenshot if you're on your phone. You can also always just ask us in WhatsApp and we can always send it. But we're always available via WhatsApp or via email with any questions that may come up later. And again, right now I have about half of our sessions posted already on that YouTube page, but I will continue posting tonight's session. I still need to record the first session, and then Danielle is going to send me the one that she did as well.
Thank you.